Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, February 10th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. Today, we remember our friend and former colleague, Terez Paylor. As Vahe Gregorian lovingly puts it, this is our emergency podcast. When he was covering the Chiefs and big news would break, like the Marcus Peters trade or the Alex Smith trade, Terez would send out the signal, and later that day, Vahe, Sam Mellinger, and Terez and me, we'd break down the story. About that Alex Smith trade, that was a big day for Terez. Not only did he conduct the emergency podcast, he broke the story in an amazing piece of hustle by Terez. Sam and Vahe joined Herbie Teope and Sam McDowell in sharing memories of Terez. Many more could have contributed. Assistant Managing Editor for Sports, Jeff Rosen, and Sports Editor Chris Fickett worked closely with Terez and helped shape his soaring career. Mike Vannon hired Terez out of Howard University, and Terez spent 12 years at the Star before moving to Yahoo Sports 3 years ago. Former colleagues like Todd Palmer, Rustin Dodd, Candace Buckner, and Dave Hewlett poured their hearts out on social media. I'll stop there. I'm leaving out so many, and I apologize, but please check out their comments and those from around the country, including the Chiefs and other NFL teams. Okay, we're going to start with an audio clip of Terez. It runs for about 50 seconds. It was part of a 2017 pre-NFL draft show that we had taped. Terez is talking about how many mock drafts he creates, and you quickly pick up on the banter and camaraderie of the group, not to mention Terez's work ethic. After that, we're going to jump right in, and the first voice you'll hear will be Sam Mellinger's. So let's get started.
I had a edge rusher go to the Chiefs in my third mock draft. My fourth one is coming out today, tomorrow. Please click on it.
Fourth mock draft.
Yeah.
Count them. 4.
You guys think that's bad? God, 3 years ago I did 8. Like, really? Like I sliced it and we're making fun of that? Like, we're going to make fun of the 4?
This is
really?
the sane version of Terez.
Yeah, he's really refined the process down to
It is the same version of me.
5 guys watching 20 tapes on
Hey, I'm going to defend myself as much as you defended yourself about the Hollywood. Listen, do you know what I did 3 years ago? I had, like, extensive reports on, like, 15 guys at position. I did, like, 23 cornerbacks that year. Like, yeah. I'm doing 5 now. So I think we've calmed it down a little bit. Am I still watching the tape? Yeah. I mean, but I'm not writing them up, you know? Like, it's a difference here. You know what I'm saying? Good Lord. That was about as effective as your Hollywood. For the record, I want you to know that.
One thing that struck me, just emails, Twitter, Facebook, and emails too, of just how many people that never met Terez or met him briefly in an airport or, had a quick email exchange with him or whatever, how many people just felt connected to him and that they were sitting right next to him, like shotgun with him on this ride. And Terez had a million gifts. Just a million gifts, and but that may have been his greatest one.
I know, Vahe, you and I've talked about being in airports and Chiefs fans coming up to us and haven't read a word that we wrote, but watched the A Team and loved Terez and the laughter, and Sam makes a good point, doesn't he?
He does, and To Sam's point, and something we've all experienced. It's everything about Terez was contagious up close, right? But it was so kind of brilliant, luminescent, whatever the word would be, that it absolutely extended out across airwaves and print and the internet. So people that never met him knew him.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that's really standing out today. And part of what this is sort of funny, but you guys will remember this. There's no need, I guess, to impugn the specific sports writer in Detroit. But Terez told me, and probably told all of us at some point, he once wrote a letter to a prominent Detroit sports writer, never heard back from him. And I think that that informed a lot of how he always determined to respond to people. And frankly, there have been times I've thought about, I don't want to respond right now. What would Terez do? So, and the other thing that just strikes me is just as all those people reaching out to us all across the world, the country for sure, all of their own sense of personal experience with him, like we did. It's part of why we're all grateful to be together today for this. It's part of why I was so grateful to be with Sam when we learned the news, Sam Mellinger, when we learned the news yesterday. It's part of why I appreciate Herbie's long-term deep relationship with Terez. It's part of why I just was so moved by Sam McDowell writing about that drive to Kentucky. Kentucky? Kentucky, yeah. All that, right? We all share that. And it makes me think a little bit about Andy Reid and how we all feel like we have a piece of him, one of Andy's lines. And I think we all like to think that a piece of us is with him too.
Herbie, I think we met the year I started covering the Chiefs. I mean, I knew who you were and we knew each other, but I think we actually didn't get to know each other until the year I started covering the Chiefs. And I remember it was you and me and Terez and Adam Teicher would go out to dinner after training camp and whatever St. Joe restaurant we happened to be in that night. And just, long after finish eating, just sit there and talk football and have a great time, because when you were with Terez, you were always going to talk football and have a great time.
I think what stands out to me the most with Terez, because man, I never had the benefit of being a coworker with him. We started out as competitors for different outlets when he joined the beat, and it was always fun to compete against him. My God, it was always fun. It was never forget that time, the Paul Faneca signing. Terez and I, we had seats right next to each other, and you can always tell when one of us had something going on in the background because we would just get quiet. And, the media room can get boisterous, but either he would be quiet or I would be quiet. And I remember when the Chiefs signed Paul Faneca, I tweeted it out there, and all of a sudden you hear him mutter, "Mother, beep." He grabbed his phone and ran out. And it was always like that. And so whenever Terez was quiet, you'd get the same reaction from me. He would tweet it out, and it would be my turn to cuss. And he'd always had that big cheese-eating grin on his face. Yeah, I got you. It was always fun. But, I think like the one thing that really jumps out to me is we were competitors, but we became so close. So close. We have so much in common beyond work. And we discovered that just from talking. Our love of New Edition, our love of Bobby Brown, just little things like that. And then come to find out he loves poker. And, I love playing poker too. And, him asking me tips on how to become more aggressive at the table. Those are the kinds of memories that just stand out to me away from football. The thing that I will always miss the most is, he became my range buddy. Because he always told me he knows my background. And I remember like around 2014, 2015, before I went to New Orleans, he always was saying, "Hey, there's nobody I trust more to teach me than you." And we finally made it happen. The summer of 2019, he came out to New Orleans with Ebony. And he was like, I said, "So what do you want to do?" I was like naming off all these tourist spots. Let's go here. Let's go there. Let's go hit the French Quarter. No. I want to go to the range. So I treated him to a full day at the range, and just the smile and the happiness. I still have photos and videos of that. Golly, man, he was my brother, man. There was a genuine big brother, little brother relationship. Him asking me advice on whether he should buy a Jeep Grand Cherokee, what kind of stuff should he do here? And it's just, I miss that man. I can't believe he's gone. Like last night, I walked around the house and say, man, it was just 6 months ago. He was sitting on that couch. Just last year, he was at this table. It's just stunning. It's just, I love that man.
It's
no doubt. I love Terez.
It's crazy that we haven't had a chance to see him, just like we haven't seen each other personally, all of us together since maybe the last Super Bowl. And I think that was probably the last time some of us anyway, saw Terez in person. But we saw him all the time on Zoom calls and heard him and communicated with him, and just basically 2020 communication. But Sam McDowell, Herbie said it a couple times, and it was so true that he was always asking for advice and tips. And when he was a high school writer at the Star, when he broke in as a high school writer, he was always mining for advice and wanting to improve his writing, his reporting skills. And I think I admired that about as much as anything about him, was just how he was always digging for more advice and information, and paying his dues. He talked about that a lot. He felt like he needed to pay his dues. And for older folks like me to hear a younger guy say that is, it's refreshing. It's, you nod your head in agreement, but you guys were both you guys came up from the high school ranks, covering high schools at the Star. And as I think Vahe alluded to earlier, you had a long trip with him almost as an introduction.
Yeah, I think that was just the second time I had met Terez. But the first time I had met Terez was just like 2 weeks after I started during that high school football season before that. And first thing he said to me, and I'd only had probably 6 articles in the paper at that point. He goes like, "Man, you're doing a great job. You just got to keep grinding, keep doing it." And looking back, just because Herbie and I actually looked up his resume to put in his obituary that Herbie was writing yesterday, and I felt like I was on a pretty similar path as him, to where I had to do the high school grind for quite a while, and probably more than I would have liked. And Terez was just a guy who constantly reminded me that just because X, Y, and Z hasn't happened for you yet doesn't mean it won't. You just got to keep doing what you're doing. And he was just, you say he was a guy that constantly asked for advice. I had a different relationship with him because of my position at the paper compared to you guys. You guys were all on the Chiefs beat together, and I was trying to get to that spot. And he was just a perfect person to talk to about that stuff, because like I mentioned in the story, when you asked him for advice, you didn't just get like a couple sentences back about what you should do. Like you were ready to go take the field after you talked to Terez. I mean, you were ready to go. And so he genuinely cared about like everybody. I mean, he had like a genuine love for everybody. He wanted you to succeed as much as he had succeeded. And I think that's going to be my lasting memory of him.
Terez was one of the very few people I let get away with calling me Herb. I hate when people call me Herb, but there's no way in the world I can get mad at Terez when I hear that. Yo, Herb. Hey, Herb. God, man.
He had a way of, I don't know if you guys saw it was on the video that Dave Hewlett cut up. That's on top of a lot of our tributes. Yeah. And it's also I don't know if you guys saw on Yahoo, there's a video that's on top of Charles Robinson's like awesome, like incredible tribute as well of Terez while he's with Yahoo, and it's just filled with that laugh, and he had that just like that deep. It would start kind of low, and then it was like he would laugh more because he was laughing, which made it, and then you had no idea what the hell he was like. What did he see? What did he just think about? But then you're laughing and you have no idea like what's so funny. That's and that happened all the time. There's nobody I like watching a football game more with, because God, he sees everything and it's all funny to him. And then he'll make some smart point. That's another thing I think about with, Terez like asked everybody a million questions, right? Like always wanted to get better. I'm older than Terez, and it wasn't long before I was asking him for advice about stuff, just because I could see this guy's different, man. And I learned a lot about football from him. I learned a lot about like journalism. I learned so much from that guy of just how he lived his life.
Hi, Chiefs fans. This is Clark Hunt. If you have an urgent orthopedic or sports injury, the University of Kansas Health System is open, safe, and has extended hours to see you quickly. You deserve champion treatment from the experts who treat the Chiefs. Request an appointment at kansashealthsystem.com/sportsmedicine. We're proud that the University of Kansas Health System is the official healthcare provider of the Chiefs.
Part of all this that kind of goes across each of these lines is, and I think we're saying it in as many words, but there was nobody he couldn't relate to.
Yeah.
And I think even the old fogies on this call, I'm not going to include you in that, Herbie, because we still don't know your age, but Blair and I'm confident learned as much from him as we ever would have thought we could help him with. But it was also quite fun that he had the old soul going, right? I mean, he enjoyed that segment, Old Man Football, and I think it was kind of just set up for us so we could reminisce about something we could mutter about, some get off our lawn kind of thing. But he also reveled in like sort of joking around, like, Uncle Blair, tell me again about that time you were covering the Rose Bowl. Like, he really couldn't believe we were doing things like that. And it stands out that a lot of the people we heard from yesterday were people in the old guard of journalism, right? Whether it was directly to us or on Twitter, people like John McClain in Houston, or I got a direct message from Les Bowen in Philadelphia, and we saw Randy Kovitz pay tribute to him. That was because of his work ethic and how he connected with people. I'm sure he was well regarded in that Pro Football Hall of Fame voting room. And just one last thing in this burst, I'd throw in there too. Like, we've been fortunate to get to be with him on some of these things, whether it was a trash can was that in Minnesota, what you're doing the video, or at the White House, right? And where he is completely at ease asking the press secretary of the United States of America about what Barack Obama is like when he's mad. And all of that is an unbelievable range. I think about that, and I think that's what we treasure most. Sam McDowell, I'm sorry I got going, and I know you were trying to say something.
No, I mean, that was all great stuff. I guess the one thing I wanted to add is that as I was writing this yesterday and reading your guys' stuff yesterday, I sort of feel like there was nobody. I don't know the right way to say this, but it felt like there was nobody easier to sort of encapsulate, because there were so many things that were very distinctively Terez, and that were things that only Terez did, and that just very clearly defined him. I mean, he had his own sayings. I mean, right down to his work with the All Juice team and things like that were just very distinctively Terez. And I just also think anybody listening to this should know that the guy that they saw in those videos and stuff, that's the guy we know. Like, that was Terez. Like, they didn't see some fake personality out there. Like, that's who he was.
Yep.
Except I think
go ahead, Herbie.
I think as people started seeing the effect that Terez had, and it just quickly evolved, the impact that he had on the National Football League, on people and people in general. And People Magazine wrote something on Terez. The Bears, Matt Nagy, issued a news release. The Bills issued a news release. The Pro Football Hall of Fame issued a news release. The Chiefs Communications Department issued a statement. This is Terez. Terez affected and impacted everyone's lives in one way or another. And to know him, Ebony said it best, to know him was to love him.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that he found Ebony. He affectionately called her Ebs all the time, but I'm just so happy he found love, and she completed him, no doubt. She completed him.
Yeah. And they were to be married, Ebony and Terez. The Lions also weighed in on Terez, his beloved Lions, and the longest, for a 37-year-old, he just felt like the longest suffering Detroit sports fan that there ever was.
Wasn't that great? The Lions sort of suggested he just sort of pop in anytime when he was in the area.
Yeah. Would love Terez's reaction to the Lions releasing a news release about him too.
I used to love Terez. The Lions would always play on Thanksgiving Day, and he said, "I know exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to lose by a field goal, and this is how it's going to unfold." He knew exactly, but he was always right. And Sam, you're right. The Terez that we saw on tape, and I would recommend you go find Dave Hewlett's. We'll make sure it's part of the notes package here. The Dave Hewlett tape, all that is true. But Melly, I mean, we were in enough of those conversations or video chats with Terez to know that wasn't what he was like just before the camera started.
Yeah, I mean, he had the this is kind of a imperfect analogy, but who was it? I forgot who it was now, but they told the Bills, like, don't fall for Patrick Mahomes' like old man jog where it looks like his feet are hurt.
Robert Saleh, yeah.
Yeah. Like Terez kind of had his own version of that, you know, where he just come in and it's just like, fellas, you got a K, man. I got no juice. I got nothing. And then he just hit record and it was like, ha ha, yes, sir. And he just like went on this thing where you just like, you know, the first couple times he got me on that. I'm not going to speak for any of you guys, but he got me on that more times than I should admit. You know, I was like, oh my God, like this guy, like, something really terrible happened in this man's life because he is deflated. And then it was just, and as soon as he hit record, man, he would lift you up and give you energy. That's another, like, that man was so confident, you know, especially like in the last, you know, once he got going on the Chiefs beat and then went to another level, I think once he got to Yahoo and you just really saw all that work and his brain and like everything just kind of come together in a way. He was a badass and he knew it, but he had this way of like, if you're around him, he had this way of like transferring some of that confidence to you, you know, like I was more confident when I was sitting next to Terez. I was more confident. Like it was just something about him just made me feel better. I got an email, by the way, this is a little bit of a non sequitur, but I'll make it quick. I got an email. I don't know when I read it this morning from somebody, an NFL source that I know a little bit, but notably have never talked to on the phone. Okay. And this guy sent me an email with like a personal Terez story. And part of it was, he's the only journalist who's ever found my cell phone number. and he said, and they would talk like, and that's Terez, you know what I mean? Like ain't nobody else, no Peter King, no nothing. Terez got this man's cell phone number and they would talk every once in a while. That, God, he was such a good reporter, man.
That's the highest of tributes.
Yeah.
You know, Vahe, you mentioned the Rose Bowl a little while ago, and I'll never forget the season. One of the seasons the Chiefs ended out in California, and the Rose Bowl was coming up, and I was going to go, and Terez had mentioned, boy, he'd never been to a Rose Bowl. He always wanted to see it and always wanted to go. So I said, yeah, you go. And so it was the Rose Bowl where I think Penn State played Southern Cal. And so Terez goes to the bowl game. And Vahe, when you and I have covered Rose Bowls, we wax poetic about the sunset over the San Gabriels and the sun, you know, glowing on the helmets glowing off the sun, and it's everything. Terez comes back from the Rose Bowl, and all he can talk about is, you know, all these draft prospects that he saw and how their body language told him everything he needed to know. And you know, all I do at the Rose Bowl is look around and I'm hypnotized by the setting. And all he did was come up with like 50 more index cards for draft prospects that year.
You know, Blair, that makes me think of something else though, that I think we're all fortunate to get a bird's eye view of, and it was kind of his world opening up in front of him, right? And again, it's a little different for the older guys, right? That, you know, we've just been around a while, but remember how mad he was at everybody that the Royals were in the World Series and he was gonna have to go to London by himself?
Yeah.
I mean, he was really upset and
a little frightened, I think, a little bit frightened by the prospect.
And truly, he was daunted. I think he was just getting his first passport, I think. Although maybe living where he did, maybe he'd go to Canada. I don't know. But what was slightly different about that experience for him than his Rose Bowl thing was he came back and he could not wait to hit the rest of the world. It was like he went to, and he realized, I'm a citizen of the world. I can go anywhere. And he had a great time. I think he stayed extra.
He did.
I think he stayed a couple extra days. And that was just, we'd go to California and he would just, you know, on that day in between, he would just go drive around the whole Bay Area and check things out. Or when we went to Baltimore, DC, of course, he'd go back to Howard campus to see what was going on. I mean, it just, he was just so curious. And it was really, truly beautiful to see how it just opened up in front of him.
If I told you that I think Terez's favorite game of the year was the fourth preseason game. Would you know what I'm talking about? It's the game the starters don't play. It's the game that nothing but third and fourth team guys. And Terez just loved following those guys. And he would be excited about, he remembered this guy in the draft from a couple of years ago, and now they've got him on tape, and maybe someone else will pick him up. And he loved that fourth preseason game, maybe unlike any other person outside of a coaching staff. I always marveled at that how, he had his binoculars, paying close attention to just everything. And through the fourth quarter of the fourth preseason game, there is Terez intently taking notes and making observations that way.
Can I make maybe this is a broken analogy, but I'm going to try it anyway. When Katie was pregnant with our first kid, the best advice I got from anybody was enjoy changing diapers. And they didn't mean like literally, but they just meant like, if you enjoy kind of the dirty, kind of gross part of this, you're going to enjoy everything. And again, this is the imperfect analogy, but you probably see where I'm going. Terez enjoyed the changing diapers part of this job in a way that I've never known anybody else. There's parts of this job, we all love what we do. And I think all of us on this call, consider ourselves lucky to be able to do this, but there's parts of that job that you love that you kind of tolerate or you don't really like. And Terez, there wasn't one part of the actual job, maybe dealing with editors at times or whatever, waiting on, a coach to get to the podium. But there wasn't one part of the actual work that he didn't love and just sort of embrace. And it kind of reminds me, I'm sorry, I'll make this part quick too, but as you guys probably did too, I went back and looked at like old text messages. And it was a lot of us like when we're on the same call and we're just kind of like trying to make each other laugh and all that. The last one though, I was listening to his podcast with Charles Robinson on Sunday, like before the Super Bowl. And, they've got like NFL legends will come on that you got to ask them one or two questions about some product they're trying to push. And then the rest of the time you can ask them whatever you want. They had Jerry Rice. And it was a non sequitur, like there was no reason for Terez to bring this up, but he goes, yeah, I'm a Pro Football Hall of Fame voter. I'm the youngest one. And it floored me. And I'm sitting there at a red light and I texted him. I was like, my man really told Jerry Rice. And then I said the quote and he wrote back, and I'm just going to say this. You can bleep it out if you want, but he just goes, yeah, I did.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, we all have Terez moments. I've got so many of them, but maybe my favorite one was among my favorites anyway. We would do the little post-game video, and in Oakland one year, we went down to the field to do it. We just had to go down on the field, right? It's easy to get to the field in Oakland.
Yeah.
And John Sleezer's there. Dave Hewlett usually was the photographer. John Sleezer always took the Oakland trip. So John sets up and got the camera rolling, and none of us are saying anything. But then we start humming the NFL theme song, and Terez breaks into the Autumn Winds of Raider. I just thought, who else knows this poem? I mean, who else understands this? Terez did. He loved it. He lived for it. And who did he not imitate? I've never. It's incredible, his repertoire of imitations. You guys have your favorite. Mine was the fact that he did Gordon Lightfoot. The soft singing, Canadian artist from the 70s singing The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. How does a young African-American guy from Detroit know this? And he just humming it along and singing it, and dead perfect imitation of Gordon Lightfoot.
I always thought that was really the ultimate indication of his range, although the seeing in Dave Hewlett's compilation, the reminder that Pacino, that was pretty good. My favorite really always was, though, and this was the one sort of thing, you weren't really allowed to make requests of Terez. Like he'd really get a little indignant if you requested an imitation. That kind of had to be in his time. But I desperately wanted him to do his own one-man show of Tom Bahali with the Liberian accent, Justin Houston's booming voice, D Ford's kind of,
Come here, Terez.
Yeah, come here, Terez. And Derek Johnson, he had that little Texas twang down in Derek Johnson too. He could have. I would have paid big money to have him put that skit together because he could do them all. He could do them all.
Yeah.
No, I'll share another memory. I don't know if any of you guys know this. This happened in the first year I was covering the team. So Terez is in the locker room, and there were bags. It must have been a Friday because there were bags out and everything. He was walking backwards and he tripped over a bag and fell down on his backside. And some of the players around kind of were stifling guffaws and everything. But Jason Avant, you remember Jason Avant, the wide receiver?
Yeah.
Came over and was really concerned for him, helped him up, shook him off, put his arm around him, and then when other players saw that, they all came over and patted him on the shoulder, asked him if he was okay. And I don't know if anybody I've ever worked with had the respect of a locker room, which is, as we all know, and Herbie, you know it probably better than anybody, just because of your beat writing position, it's difficult to get. And everybody in that locker room, when I was covering the team on a daily basis and in the locker room every day, respected Terez.
You saw a little of that on Twitter yesterday, just with everybody from Ron Parker to Chris Jones to Sammy Watkins. I think we're among those who spoke out. And I told Sam McDowell this last night. It's unfair to say who they were, but I got a text from a former chief and a current chief that was all about how real Terez was and how respected he was. I mean, that does not happen much, if ever, right? I mean, and Terez, like we all hope to do, had a great way of being not just showing up, but being understood to be fair, right? I mean, he'd have to write the tough things too, ask the hard questions, but the spirit was right, and he was understood that way, and I think that's what resonates with those people you just described, Blair.
You mentioned that Vahe, and I'm not going to say his name either, but a former Chiefs general manager, I'm sure we can connect the dots here, texted me and called me yesterday. And, we talked for about a good 11, 12 minutes. And he was like, I'm calling you because I know you were close with Terez, but I just wanted to tell you that he always treated me fairly. You mentioned asking the hard questions, but he was like that he had to do his job. And I always respected him for doing that. The outpouring of love from around the NFL circles was just tremendous yesterday. Text messages, emails, phone calls, social media. It's just, like I said numerous times earlier, I just can't believe he's gone.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm going to, when we're finished this call, I wish we could have done this in a non-COVID way and sit around a table and chatted about him. I think we could go on for a long, long time. And I think I'm going to spend the next couple hours going back to YouTube and just laughing at Terez and us, because that's how I want to remember Terez. So let's close it down and just if we were sitting around a table, we'd all have coffee cups or glasses, and we'd raise a toast to Terez. So at least let's think in those terms, that to one of the best people I've ever known. So guys, thanks for doing this, and we'll be back talking Chiefs before you know it. But this show was all about Terez. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Blair. Thanks, everybody.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. And thanks to Sam Mellinger, Vahe Gregorian, Herbie Teope, and Sam McDowell for sharing their thoughts on Terez Paylor. During the show, we spoke of Terez's love of imitation, so let's end with this thought. Terez enjoyed the movie Shawshank Redemption, especially the scene where the prisoners late in the movie are remembering the Andy Dufresne character who had escaped. I wish I had it on tape, but Terez quotes the entire scene in his Morgan Freeman voice. And it ends with this thought. I guess I just miss my friend. Well, we all feel that way about Terez. Thanks for listening.